Coming up, Mike Buckley from Be My Eyes on the App Store Finalists Awards and AI and efficacy.
This is Double Tap, where blind people talk tech. Here's Stephen Scott and Shaun Preece.
Hey, Shaun.
Hello, Stephen. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, it's one of those episodes, is it? Oh, cool.
Well,
efficacy. Can you just say that for me one more time, please?
Going by the amounts of times we've tried to start the show, I think less words are better. Probably
Take
the best
7.
way to do it. Yeah. I have to say, takes 1 to 6 were actually pretty decent. I think by the 40-minute mark, we almost nailed it.
By now, this one is going to be amazing. I can tell already.
Yeah, I can feel it in my bones.
Efficacy.
Efficacy, yeah. Efficacy? That's a different thing, isn't it?
Efficacy. Ergonomics. Efficacy. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I feel take 8 coming on any minute.
I know.
Okay, so, we're going to talk to Mike Buckley. I actually had a chat with him because, of course, the big news was around the Apple App Store Finalist nomination, which is where, at the end of the year, Apple give out awards to different companies for their apps. And Be My Eyes was nominated, which was...
Of course. How could it not be? For the category was cultural impact, by the way. So, deserved, I think. Absolutely.
But we get into a lot more. And it was a late night conversation, so it kind of drifted into the evening and got a little bit interesting when we started talking about AI and efficacy. And all the conversations are kind of following on in a lot of ways from our chat recently we did on the Double Tap Extra show with Robin, all about companionship and how AI can be used as a companion. Because that means so many different things at the moment. It could be companion in the sense of something that helps you in terms of counseling, perhaps. It could be medical help or medical support. Or it could just be a plain old friend. AI
or
becoming
even more.
your friend. Or
given
more.
The latest AI, a little bit of sauce.
Bit of sauce in there, yeah. Oh, I do love a good British farce, which is what you're listening to right now by the sounds of it. But no, it is really interesting. So we'll get into all that with Mike a little bit later. So let's look forward to that.
Is he? Has he heard the interview back? I mean, because initially it was just to ask him about the App Store.
Yeah.
Nomination.
Yeah.
And then you seem to have lulled him into a false sense of security. Does he know what he's actually said in this interview?
Absolutely did not lull him into any false sense of security. He knew
I know what you're like, Stephen.
He's a grown man. He can speak for himself. No, he knew exactly what he was talking about.
Okay.
Anyway, look, I want to talk about... let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about the fact that I am hopeless when it comes to buying computers.
It's never ending.
It's like a soap opera.
I've just bought this. No, I haven't. I've just bought this. No, wait a minute. I've just bought that. What have you bought now? Where are we at?
So right, here's where we're at, right? Because I have to say, I get so many messages from people who say, "Oh, I hear you've just bought this. Oh, I hear you've just bought that." And I'm thinking, and as I'm listening to the message, I'm going, "Yeah, you haven't heard the latest episode, have you?" We'll just wait. We'll wait till the dust settles on this one.
Give us a summary.
Okay, so here's the summary, ChatGPT style. Stephen decided to buy a new laptop and thought it would be really clever to buy, the top end of their line. So looked at something like the Asus ProArt PX13, which is an incredible beast of a machine.
Amazing.
With AMD Ryzen, is it 9i or i9? They've kind of copied Intel a little bit.
Yeah, I can't remember which way round. Yeah.
But, really high-end processor. It's got AI in it. It's got the NPU in there. It's got a really great GPU as well, which when you're doing video editing, I learned is really important. So, I'm not going to play games on it. I don't particularly care about the OLED screen it comes with. But that graphics power in there is really important. So it came with, I think, an NVIDIA GeForce. I think it was a 4080 or something, or maybe a 5080.
I believe it was a 5070.
Oh, was it? Right, okay. So
in
top
the
of the
Pro
line.
Art. Top of the current generation, anyway. The top of the line is the 5090, but you don't get many of those in laptops. So a 5070, which is a very nice, hence the price, by the way.
Well, the price wasn't too bad because you can get refurbished options as well. I mean, you could get it for like £1,000, which I thought wasn't too bad.
Really?
For that top end, and we're talking refurbished, of course, you're probably doubling that price when you're buying it brand new. So I thought, well, I don't need to pay that. And the other thing about that particular machine that I liked was 13-inch style. It doesn't have that gaming PC style. So it's not covered in LEDs. It's not, it doesn't have weird shape to it. It doesn't have odd keyboard, design because they're building it for gamers. It's kind of built more as a creatives But of course, you can use it for gaming and all that kind of stuff as well. But it had a more of a business look to it. So it sounded like a really nice machine. But I thought, I don't know, it's refurbished, and then that means someone else has touched it.
Why did we just talk about that? That's not the one you ordered anyway.
But it's a great machine. And I thought, okay, so I might go down that road. So
that was on the list.
That was on the list. Yep. And then my good old friend, the Lenovo ThinkPad, reared its head. Now, they don't tend to have the high-end graphics in there unless you go for, like, is it LDQ, I think it's called, is the new one. And there's Legion as well. These are the gaming machines. So gaming
I've got
laptops.
One here.
You do? Yeah, that's the Legion you've got.
Legion laptop with a 3070, so two generations ago. I do apologise.
Dreadful. Yeah.
Totally unused in my case, by the way.
Well, I mean,
if
you were using or doing video editing, you would get the benefit out of that.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know, the graphics card or the graphics chipset is used for rendering out the video, which can really speed up. If you're trying to export a 4K video, in our case, 56 minutes long, then it matters that it's not going to take 56 minutes to render out in real time. You want 10 minutes or 5 minutes or as quick as possible.
And that was the issue I was having with the Lenovo ThinkPad I've got, which is like 5 years old now. And that's not old really, but when you're talking about the graphics hardware and that, it does certainly show its age. And when you were rendering out a video on that laptop, like you say, a 45-minute video was taking 45 minutes to render. That's not ideal. Especially when you're trying to get work done, and maybe I have out of one show, I've got maybe 5 or 6 clips I want to clip out. I need them to be done fairly quickly. So I thought about going down the route of Lenovo, and then I saw a great deal. I mentioned it the other day, £800 it was going to cost me. Really nice machine. Last year's ThinkPad, Gen 5. It was a P14S with, the AMD Ryzen processor. I'm really into the AMD Ryzen processors. I think it was 32 gig of RAM and 1 terabyte storage. And I thought, this is going to be perfect. Absolutely perfect. Great price and all that. And then, see, this is the problem, because then what Lenovo did was they made a huge error of judgment, because they sent me an email that said, your order has been delayed.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what they don't understand is, in Stephen Scott language, that is...
cancelled.
Well, it's like... So I can change my mind now. Because in the email it said, if you want to cancel your order, you're welcome to. And I thought, that's a really bad line. That's a really bad thing to say to me, because now I'm starting to look back at my Asus ProArt PX13 again. I'm now looking at other machines. So I cancelled the order because they wanted to send me on like the 1st of December. I'm not waiting around till the 1st of... Hang on, what day is it?
It's about 4 days.
Okay, right. Well, I'm not waiting that long.
6 days.
I want to play with it today.
I want it tomorrow. I want it yesterday. Yeah.
And also, that way I was kind of like, I wasn't sure if I was 100% behind this purchase idea anyway. So I'm like, is this... So I cancelled the order.
Didn't have a separate discrete graphics card chipset.
This one was integrated AMD Radeon graphics, which
is no better than probably what you were using.
I've got that solution already, basically. Yeah. So I wasn't going to really benefit from that. So cancelled the order. And then I maybe bought myself a new Geekcom machine instead. Which, by the way, in case you're in any doubt, is not a laptop.
Why? Yeah. So, right. Okay. Laptops are amazing. They're great. Yeah. Right. But when it comes to like the top end power of what you're looking for, then they are slightly limited. Even if you're talking about a laptop class of processor, it's not quite as powerful because of the amount of power from the battery that it can draw. Yeah. Than a desktop one, which you're plugging into the mains of your house and can draw all the power it wants. So what made you want a laptop?
Well, this is, I suppose, the endless fight. Is like I really wanted a top end. If there was an equivalent to the MacBook Pro, which I maybe that Asus ProArt PX13 is, I don't know. Seems like it probably is on paper. Whether it is in reality is another story. I heard mixed reviews, and I've read or listened to a lot of YouTube reviews, and I've thought, okay, it seems to be closer to it. And I think that's the problem. I kind of want a MacBook Pro that's a PC.
You've got a MacBook Pro.
I did. Sent it back. So my lease ended, and it went back. So I don't have a MacBook Pro anymore. This is the first time I've been MacBookless in a long time.
What, you haven't got anything? You must have an Air.
No, I don't have an Air, no.
What?
No, I don't have a MacBook at all. I only have my
Studio.
my Mac Studio and my old Mac Mini.
Okay.
Which is fine. It does the job.
How many Mac Minis have you got?
Let's not go there. Yeah. I collect the old ones. I like the old ones. They're nice. It's funny. We were on a call the other day with someone who shall remain nameless for the purposes of this conversation. And I said, I've got a couple of Mac Minis. And he said, if you've got any spare, you can maybe send me one over. I said, yeah, sure.
Yeah, joking.
Do you know what? I'll send you one. No worries at all. I'll send you one of these. And I said, it's an M1. He was like, I don't want that. I've already got one in a drawer as well.
Here's a free Mac. I don't want it. If it's not the M4, forget it. Okay.
I wasn't going to give that away for free. But no, I'm not selling my Mac Mini M4 because that's a great machine. Really is a great machine. So I use a Mac Mini as a server in my house to host all my files. And it's an M2 Pro that's actually running in that. And it does the job fine because all it's doing is serving up files. But great. Eventually the M4 will take on that role. It's sitting waiting.
Well, get it done. What are we waiting for?
I don't know what I'm waiting for, to be perfectly honest. There you go.
Anyway, okay. So you want a laptop because...
Well, wanted a laptop, yeah, because I wanted to have the portability to do all the work I want to do at home, also and on the move.
And away.
But also I think it's about, multiple machines means multiple management of updates and software. And, it's not even about, necessarily that. But you know what it's like? You get settings set up on your machine. You feel comfortable with it. Then you go to another machine you've got. And it's your machine, but it's not set the same way, or you've made alterations over here, and you think, is that not working the same over here? And it just becomes a bit of a pain. So ideally, you want one machine that you can just do everything on, and that's it. And I know I can take it around with me, and every time I open it up, no matter where I am, the experience is the same. I was reading a LinkedIn post the other day. You know LinkedIn, right? The world's biggest bragging network. It's amazing. You should go on there, check it out. If you want to hear people tell you how wonderful they are, and then have other people comment on how much they agree on how wonderful you are.
Are you on there, Stephen?
You should go on there. I don't post very often, but I do go on
but you
there.
Are on there.
Well, it's the place to find people.
Yeah, that's enough. That's fine.
You just have to go through a lot of bragging to get to the people you're trying to get to, but that's okay. That's okay.
I'm going to find you on there and read your profile.
But I was reading, I'm wonderful on there, by the way. I have to tell you, I am the best version of myself. But no, I was reading a post on there the other day, and someone saying that they have train worry when they're traveling because, traveling on a train and they're trying to do the same things they would do in the office, but on a train, is actually quite unnerving. And it's funny, I don't know, but I think this person might have been low vision. And I remember having exactly the same fears when I would travel for work. My computer just, on my desk in my office back in the day when I had better vision to use magnification, so I was using Zoom Text or Windows Magnifier, back in those days, you would actually be sitting at your desk, you'd have a huge monitor in front of you, on an arm that was coming right up to your face, and you'd have your computer set there, you'd have a big keyboard you were comfortable with, it was all perfect. And then you would get on a train, and you'd be sitting with this laptop thinking, I cannot see this thing at all. How am I going to get any work done?
Let it go.
The answer was screen readers. That was the answer. Yeah. Screen reader was the answer. But I basically just want to have the same kind of power in front of me and the same machine in front of me everywhere I go. So I don't really have to think about it. Because I don't care about the screen, I can just plug it into my dock and get power and all that stuff. So
I get it.
It's getting the solution that doesn't cost an absolute fortune. And that's the problem. It's really expensive to buy the kind of machine that I'd be looking for. But then I remembered my good old Geekom machine. Now, the Geekom machine I have in love is actually being sold on to a friend. He's needing a new computer. And I thought, well, it would make more sense. He struggles with this stuff. He's not particularly techie. And he said, look, if you could help me set up. And I thought, well, what I could do is I could just sell you the one I bought, just give you for the price I paid for it, because I got a great deal on it. So I'll just pay, you give me that back, essentially, that money back, and you can have this one. And I'll go and buy something new, because that's fun. I like the sound of that. So that's exactly what I've done.
Sacrificing, Stephen.
I am so self-sacrificing. But of course, I'll still want that money by the end of the week.
Yes.
So, that is now going towards a machine I've now bought, which is, of course, double the price of the one I already bought. But I kind of knew that was going to happen. If I was ever going to replace the Geekom machine, I was going to buy something that was going to be more. So I bought myself the A8 Mini, which is an upgrade on the A5 Mini that I bought. The A8 Mini has now, let me remind myself, it's an AMD Ryzen 9 AI processor. So right at the top of the line.
Pro art.
But a higher processor, a better processor.
Yeah.
Than that was even in the Pro art.
Again, Is that desktop class or is that still a laptop class?
In these mini machines, I don't know. I think they might be laptop class.
Okay.
But it's going to be good. I mean, it's going to hit the mark for me.
Yeah.
I mean, a Ryzen 5 would probably hit the mark for me.
Yeah.
So, 32 gig of RAM, which is wonderful, and 2 terabyte solid state drive in there, which normally is, I mean, sometimes you get up to 1, but this one has 2. And I got that for like £650.
Wow.
Which is a deal on just now because there's Black Friday deals going on and they knocked off 15% off the price.
What, like
and I thought
800 Canadian?
Something like that, yeah. Which, I mean, that's not bad.
Not bad. No, that's, I mean, look, that processors, we're talking top end there. 32 gig, more than enough. Fantastic. 2 terabytes, glorious.
Yep.
Graphics card, Stephen Scott.
Yeah, so this one, I'm still a bit confused by this because it says it's got a small, it says how is it described it? You don't need to have an external GPU, an external graphics card because it's got enough power in it. Feels a little bit like that MacBook Air graph back in 2020 that just said, it's better because the line goes up.
I'm assuming it's telling you that it's got integrated graphics built into the processor, so you don't need an external GPU, which is fine, but again, you can't compare that to an external or a discrete graphics card, separate graphics card chipset. So
one thing they do talk about with these machines a lot in the reviews, because they're generally sold off as computers for developers, and these computers are used by people who might do some gaming. And, some people have said, hey, if you compare this to a Sony PlayStation 5 or whatever it is, then you get great results and people seem to be happy. So the graphics in there must be decent enough to do all that. Now, it's just whether or not they're good at rendering. But then that's the same thing, isn't it? Rendering graphics for games? Or is it? I don't know. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, it kind of is, but there's dedicated accelerators. I mean, in the NVIDIA graphics cards, they've got CUDA cores, which do it in parallel, and they're specifically tuned for doing parallel processing. But that being said, they may be absolutely fine. I have no idea on this AMD processor and the integrated graphics. Could be absolutely fine.
Yeah, and look, time will tell. When I get it, I'll let you know. But I have to say, for the price, I think it's an absolute bargain. And okay, just to remind people, this is a very small computer. So this is not a desktop. It's not a big tower, but it is a desktop machine. I would say it's very similar to the Mac Mini. Actually, I would say it's very similar in size to the Mac Mini that's out just now. So yeah, I mean, we'll try it out. We'll see how we go and see how it works. But I'm very excited about it, Shaun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we've lost Shaun, actually. So we're going to take a short break. We'll come back. Shaun seems to have disappeared for the moment. But yeah, we'll get him back on very soon because we're going to be chatting soon anyway with Mike Buckley. So stick around. This is Double Tap. Double Tap thanks Numa Solutions for supporting this podcast and for their continued commitment to digital accessibility. Numa Solutions is behind some of the most powerful accessibility tools out there, all designed by blind developers who understand the real-world challenges of inaccessible tech. Whether it's Remote Incident Manager or RIM, which lets you give or receive fully accessible remote tech support across PC and Mac, or Scribe, which turns inaccessible meeting documents into screen reader-friendly files instantly, Numa is solving real problems with smart, usable tools. They're not just building the products, they're building independence to go along with them. At Numa, they believe access to information is a right, not a privilege, and that is why we're excited to celebrate our partnership with a special offer just for the Double Tap community. Use code DT20 for $20 off any new purchase or the first billing cycle of a subscription. And they're giving away 10 free community support subscriptions for Remote Incident Manager and 10 Scribe for Documents subscriptions as well. You can experience seamless tech support and real-time document remediation completely accessibly. Subscribe to our newsletter at doubletaponair.com/subscribe for your chance to win and stay up to date with everything they're working on.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback@doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Okay, it looks like we have lost connection with Shaun, but we're going to move on because I had a chance to catch up with Mike Buckley this week from Be My Eyes. He's the CEO over there. He's a regular voice and face to our show, and we got the chance to talk about lots of things. Starting off, of course, on the big news about the App Store Finalists Award from Apple that is going on at the minute. Apple put together a list of their finalists for their favorite apps of the year. Be My Eyes is in there under the cultural impact category, which is amazing news. We talked about that, but we also went on to talk about AI and how it is going to be used in terms of companionship going forward, not just generally, but also by Be My Eyes themselves. And of course, we get into the whole efficacy, if you like, if I can say that word, of AI itself.
You don't call, you don't write. The trust is gone, man.
Well, I'm here now, right? I mean, goodness me.
All right. You are.
I'm here. Listen, it's been a busy year for you. I don't even know where you want to start. I mean, if we want to look back at 2025 alone, it's been an incredible year for you. But we have to start with the headline. And that is, of course, the news of you getting into the App Store Finalists list of Apple's top apps in the App Store. This is huge news, isn't it?
It's exciting, man. It makes me happy for the team. It makes me happy for the community of blind and low vision. Just, it's another form of recognition there as well, I think, Stephen. You know about this. Like our ethos is with, not for. And so that part of it makes me really happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And right, it should. And what a great team you have. I was talking to your good friend and colleague Andy Bailey while I was in Site Village in London just the other day. You've got quite a number of people in the UK now as well, so you're really growing the team out.
Yeah, we've got a number of hires in the UK, as you noted, and we're adding a person in Germany. We've added engineering in Denmark as well, and so we really are focused on growth. But look, you and I were talking off camera, Stephen, I also feel like I'm failing every day on something. And so we definitely need more people, right? And more revenue and all of the above. But I still have a lot of optimism, and like the Apple recognition is nice. But if I'm being 100% honest, like I think about like the failure of the product and awareness in like rural India, right? And there's so many countries that we're live in that we've just got a lot more to build and a lot more to fix. Excited about it, but also just being honest, like we got a lot of stuff to do.
Hey, listen, I feel that. I really do. I feel it with this show, right? I hear people talk about topics. I hear them say, require or request information. And I think we talked about that. We did that on the show. How do we get the show in front of more people? How do we tell more people about this every day? I'm with you on that. 100% with you on it. Because I know exactly where you're coming. It's not a failure, though. It's not a failure.
Yeah, I was talking to, I won't use it at any names, but someone really sophisticated, blind user, traveler, technologist, enthusiast who didn't know about Double Tap.
Yeah.
Right. And I played like 6 minutes of a show and he's like, this is great. And I'm like, yes. And but this awareness challenge that we have, right? Like, look, you're entertainment, but you're also a tool, right? Mm-hmm. They're also a tool and an educational resource, and in many ways, I think also an emotional resource, right? For members of the blind and low vision community. But like, we both have a similar challenge on that awareness, and it's hard to think about tackling that with and accelerating that awareness. Anyway, fun problem to have in some ways, but also a annoying problem too.
Yeah, no, I get it. And you're right. I mean, it's actually the challenge of getting into, as you say, India or parts of Africa. And like you say, the service may well be available in those parts of the world, but it's making people aware of it. That's always the challenge. But really, I suppose the way to do it nowadays is to do things like this, get on a show like this. We'll spread the word, be at conferences, getting around the world. You were, of course, doing that at Site Village in London, as you've done many places around the world, getting out there, telling people the story. I think my experience with Be My Eyes is there are many, many, many sighted people out there who know a lot about it and not enough blind people. That seems to be the the problem here, isn't it?
Totally agree with you. Volunteers, when they have one call, they tell 15 people, right? Which gets 14 of those 15 volunteering. So that's not the issue. But the good news is look, we literally are growing every day in 150 plus countries. The bad news is it's not fast enough and it's not distributed enough. And there's still so many people's lives who we're not touching and working with that, we need to figure out that distribution curve and accelerating those. The other issue that we have is we're working a lot and making a lot of investment right now in making the app even more intuitive, experimenting with voice, right? Experimenting with video and a whole bunch of things that we're working on, because what happens a lot is if someone who's relatively newly blind or someone maybe who's elderly and their kids, show them Be My Eyes, we have to make sure that the service is so easy and so intuitive to use that someone literally the first time they touch it says, oh, this makes sense. And then they can come back here, right? We lose more than 50% of the people who initially download the app, right? Because of something, right? And it may be UI or UX or whatever, but and our retention numbers are still really good. They're probably the envy of a lot of apps, but we have to do better. I have to do better.
Yeah, I often wonder though. I think about it from my own point of view, and I can only speak for myself, right? But I know myself, I often feel very nervous calling a volunteer, even still today. I don't know why that is. I just do. I often feel like I'm going to burden someone with my question. Or I'll ask myself, is this a question a volunteer would be able to answer? I go through all this in my head. And then actually, if I just made the call, and as I have done in the past, just made the call, I get the answer. It's brilliant. I have a wonderful experience. I was talking to someone at Site Village, actually, who was telling me they love calling up because they had a huge pile of CDs they wanted to sort out. And they sat with this person on this call for the best part of an hour and a half. And they just had a great conversation. It was a really sociable moment for someone. And I thought, there's so much more to this than just being my eyes. It's a social connection for a lot of people. There's so much to this.
There's a lot to unpack in what you just said, and it's all true. The first is that emotion that you talked about of having trepidation to make that call is the single most consistent piece of feedback we hear from people who don't make a call.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I burdening someone, right? Is it going to feel awkward? Will they be able to help me or not? And getting over that barrier is an issue. And one of the ways we get over it is when we have the chance to kind of talk to large groups of people who are blind or have low vision, or even just individuals. I cannot stress enough that your calls are a source of joy for the volunteer, right? It's a little touch of humanity where that volunteer gets to, sometimes it's a few minutes, sometimes it's an hour, like you said, Stephen, a few minutes of just human connection and kindness, right? And so the volunteers love it. And what we know from our data is well over 90% of these calls are successful. So maybe if it's something hugely technical, a volunteer won't be able to answer it, but more often than not, it's going to be successful. But that's part of that educational curve and challenge that we have, right?
I mean, looking back over the year, you've had a lot of successes, of course. You talk about failures. I think I would say it's opportunity. That's what I think it is, honestly, because I think the same way about this show. I think it's all opportunity. It's all there for the taking. We just have to find our way towards it. But looking back at the year, what's been the highlight for you? I mean, obviously coming to the end of the year now, we're looking at that point where you're getting into the Apple App Store Finalists categories. That's incredible. But you've done a lot over the year. What's been the highlight?
Truthfully, it's the growth in the engagement and usage of the service. Look, there's sexy stuff, right? The meta stuff is really sexy and important, right?
Yeah, huge.
New stuff with on a different front, like new stuff on group calling, things like that. But my number one priority and number one source of personal joy is seeing more people utilize the service and I think get benefit from it. So, and truthfully, Stephen, nothing there's no better feeling than like running into someone at a conference that you've never spoken to in your life, and they tell you a story about how they used the application for joy, for utility, for benefit, whatever. Like, those are my favorite days, right? So that's. I mean, it may not sound as sexy as like a really cool piece of hardware and software, but like that's the thing that gets me out of bed the most every day.
Listen, one story I tell people all the time is, it's great hearing stories of people who scale mountains who are blind, or, fly microlight planes, or whatever it is they do for fun, or, I drove my first car in a safe environment, or whatever it was. The reality is, for a lot of people who are blind, just getting over the front door is the biggest barrier. And if you can do that, that's your achievement. That could be a huge achievement because it leads to everything else. And, so it is the small things. It really is the small things that actually make the biggest difference. I mean, the Meta Ray-Bans is a sexy thing, but what is brilliant about it is that it's actually made the service something I'm using more of, because it's right there. It's on my face the whole time. So when I'm wearing my Meta Ray-Bans and I'm out and about, I can just call a volunteer, and a volunteer is seeing through my camera. And actually, it helps me explain the service to more people, especially those who don't know about it or don't quite understand how it works, or have heard about it but don't quite know how they would fit it into their lives. And obviously, if you are working through, say, clothes or CDs, whatever it is, holding a phone is a nightmare. Now, that leads me to the next question, because, of course, there's a lot of new wearables coming along. I think I'm right in saying you're working with a Giga and Echovision glasses, right? You're going to be available on those.
Yeah, they're not necessarily kind of a formal contractual partnership, but we think that if the call of volunteer is a good experience, we should be hardware agnostic. And credit to Meta, right? Meta is cool with us kind of working with other hardware companies on call of volunteer. And so as long as we think that the company with whom we're working with has reasonably good intentions and is willing to maintain the technology, like why wouldn't we make that available and work with other parties, right?
And I mean, AI, of course, continues. I'm always interested in this. How has AI affected the volunteer relationship? I'm going to take a wild guess and say it hasn't really touched it at all, because people are maybe using both or one over the other. But I'm intrigued to know how, because I remember we talked about this at the beginning, and I said to you, do you think more people would use Be My AI rather than call a volunteer? What's the data saying?
Up and to the right on humans, and up and to the right on AI. Now, look, the AI sessions outnumber the volunteer calls by about 25-1, but it's been that way. That ratio has been pretty consistent over time. We are getting increasing calls to volunteers literally up and to the right every day. I'll give you a couple of stats. 28% up call volume year over year totally. 76% up on Meta initiated calls since January. And so there is something here that is about humanness, right? That is about more than just rote utility and speed. Don't get me wrong. Like I think that like a lot of people in our community want just a fast answer sometimes, right? Yeah. Just give me my data. This is utility. It's for my job. It's for the airport. It's for whatever. But I think there's something else going on here, where again that act of connection and that act of kindness together. There's something beautiful about that. Look. What the hell do I know, Stephen? Maybe you and I will have an AI bot friend that is more interesting, more kind, or anything else than any human we've ever met. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that, if I'm honest. I've been watching a couple of interviews on this one recently on TV, and there's a consensus going around that, outside of the disability sphere, there's this desire for people to have these AI chatbots. But the reality is that all it's doing is separating us again. It's finding a new way to divide us. And it seems that, we always seem to try and find a way back to connection. And Be My Eyes allows that. It allows for that connection. And it's from both sides. That's the wonderful thing about it. It's not just about blind people getting hold of someone to help them. It's also people who are saying, hey, we want to help you. It's perfect, actually. It's a beautiful story. It always was.
the again, that volunteer joy, I can't even tell you. It's just an incredibly real phenomenon. Look, I hope we don't ever replace that human connection completely or think that we can, right? Where I get torn and thinking about this, holistically, society-wide, like there are phenomenal like mental health tools that are bot driven, that are perfectly trained on, say, cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Which has mathematically been shown, to produce good mental health outcomes. Gosh, what if we could make that available for free, in Be My Eyes or anywhere? It doesn't have to be Be My Eyes, right? Like, it seems like we have to try that, right? Because you have this distribution problem again of, are there enough therapists? Are there enough O&M trainers? Are there enough, deaf and hard of hearing interpreters, right? Same issue. But yeah, anyway, the data says the human side of this is also growing, but it's a very odd time to think about it, society, where this is all headed,
Well, especially right now, let's be honest. I mean, in a world where social media, smartphones have distanced us in so many ways. And look, I'm pro-tech, right? There you go. I said it. Shocking as that is. Where's my breaking news jingle? I'm pro-tech, but I'm also a realist about technology. And, it's funny because I was one of those people who would quite happily, back in 2020, when the world locked down, I was quite happy to stay at home. And there was a lot of disabled people out there who said, this is the life I've always wanted. I can stay in my own home. I have my own setup. I know where I am. I know what I'm doing. Everything's good. Zoom forward 5 years and I'm craving that social connection again, that human connection. It's nice to be, at events and actually talk to people in real life. It's a nice thing. And, when you're talking to people who are volunteers, not robots, and I have no issue really with talking to the robot, but, again, I see that as more of a utility. For me, maybe it's a generational thing, Mike. I don't know, because I didn't grow up with any of this. Neither did you, right? So we're kind of coming to this. The Gen Zers and the new gen, whatever. Do we go back to A? I don't know. Whatever the next generation is, they will be coming to this for the very first time, and from birth, this will be part of their everyday existence. They may see this very differently, but I look at it very much as a utility. But the human connection is still very important for me, which is why it makes total sense that the volunteer side is growing.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a really hard philosophical and moral question, right? Like go to social media. The parallels there, because the growth trajectories were certainly somewhat similar to what we're seeing with AI right now. Like, there is zero doubt that not only the early stages of social media, but even today, there are massive societal benefits from this, right? There are cancer support groups on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
There are also, literally, there are examples from back in the day when I used to work at Facebook, where communities in Africa were able to provide safe drinking water because of posts, right, on that application, right? But the unintended consequences, right, of putting everybody together in a town hall or a town square also has some ugly things too, right? It's hard for me to imagine we're not going down the exact same path with AI right now. Unbelievable utility and benefit, but also some bad shit's going to happen, Stephen.
Well,
right?
Yeah, and I have to say there's a great conversation in the disability community around this as well, because I often think about it from the point of view of, I see all the negatives, I see all the positives as well. There are some people who would happily just ignore the negatives because of the great utility that AI brings. I mean, one example to blind people that I think has been huge in the past couple of years is images and video. Now, I would never have gone on holiday and taken pictures. I wouldn't care less about taking them. Yeah, someone might take them. They may send me the pictures, but they would just live on my phone as, img_738.jpg for the rest of their lives, right? And that would be it. Now I can have them described. Now I can get video described. Now I can, go back to my holiday in Canada last year and actually watch the videos back with my wife, with them being audio described, and go, oh yeah, that's what was going on. Or, oh, I didn't realize that happened in that video. That's pretty cool. It's bringing that back to life, bringing things to life that would never have been possible before. That's incredible. And it is easy to kind of look past the bad stuff and say, but it helps me.
Right.
I don't know. It's a difficult one.
It is. And look, the genie's out of the bottle, right?
Yeah, it's not going back in.
There's kind of zero evidence that anybody's going to slow this down. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to do kind of three things. One is harness it for the most benefit and power, right? For the communities that we work with, number one. Two is acknowledge the shit and the risks and the errors and the sometimes hallucinations and the need to be thoughtful, careful, and then the third is make sure that we're trying to overtly influence where these models and technology goes. And you and I have had a conversation about making sure that blind-centric data is used to train models, but like that seat at the table, right? And that input into the foundation of the model, huge. I think it's huge.
So what do you do with Be My AI next? I mean, I'm kind of future gazing with you here, I guess. But, do you go down the route of saying we want to build that chat bot, which is a mental health advisor or someone who can help, or do you go for a more general chatbot style? Because at the minute it is utilitarian, right? You're using it to perhaps describe an image, or in my case, I'm usually using it to find out cooking instructions for something. So I'm querying, whatever the image has brought up, and maybe going into more detail and depth. But that's maybe it. Do you have a desire to go further than that?
Yes, because I think the market's going to go there with or without us, right? And so we have to do it too. There's no doubt that a section of humans who are blind or have low vision are going to want to interact with their voice rather than typing. So you want to give that optionality there. There's no doubt that a portion of the people using our service and new people coming on are going to want to do more than just visual description. Maybe I have a general query. Maybe I want to do a verbal Google search and just talk to my AI friend, right? Whether it's on Be My Eyes or anywhere else. I am not proud of what I'm about to say, but I confess that I went on the Grok model and I pushed unhinged mode and gave it a little bit of data about my best friend. And then my best friend came into the room and said, I said, what do you have to say to Bart? And it started swearing at him in a very personal way, talking about, the characteristics of Bart. And so I think we're going here one way or the other. And I think the benefit for Be My Eyes of trying to bring those experiences to the community of people using our service is that hopefully we'll do it in a way with the right guardrails and trust and not ableist fashion, right? And hopefully trying to make that the experience not only the best possible, but also the most germane, right? The most utilitarian. That's the goal. But truthfully, if you think about any service in the disability space, we're all under threat.
Yeah.
We can be rendered obsolete. And so if you don't keep up, and again, harness and emphasize safety and true utility, you're eventually going to go out of business, right?
But it is on, I guess, niche models. I think that's where it's all going to go, isn't it? I mean, these large language models that are out there right now, they're making so many mistakes and so many errors and hallucinations. I think you said that the phrase off air, you talked about confident hallucinations. I've seen this all the time. It's absolutely guaranteed it's giving you the right answer. And you tell it that's the wrong answer, and it says, oh, you're absolutely right. Let me tell you the right answer again, which is still wrong, by the way. And we go through this all the time. I mean, if you ever want to play that game, just ask it screen reader shortcuts. I guarantee you it won't have a clue, but it will be absolutely confident in what it's telling you. So, that's a problem, but that can be resolved through niche models, smaller models, hyper-focused in on specific areas. And that is where I think if any growth is going to come out of this, and I'm no expert on this, I'm just reading the tea leaves like everyone else, really, this boom that they're talking about that may eventually come, or the bubble that will burst with AI, will probably leave behind more opportunities for Be My Eyes to grow in this way through Be My AI.
I think you're right. If your premise is that specialization and design for particular audiences still can win, I agree with that. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah.
There is another side to that, though, which is interesting. We see Envision doing it right now with Ally, which is where they're turning it into a, much more personality-driven. It'll curse and swear at you if you want it to, that kind of thing. It's interesting because that's the first time I've ever really heard that outside of, from a tech company for blind people, if you like. Never really heard that before. And I think that's because we've been conditioned. Again, it's an age thing. I grew up in a world where, if a blind person was to swear, every airplane in the country would fall out the sky, because it was such a horrific thing. The idea of a disabled person using a swear word was shocking, horrifying. When I started working at AMI and doing the show here, and seeing the shows that were being produced with disabled people swearing, shocking. But it wasn't shocking. It's part of life. It's what people do. What do you think about that? Because there's a reputational thing here, isn't there? When you're building something like that, you're kind of opening up yourself to attack on your own company's morals. How do you square that circle?
I think you've got to give people their choices, right? I don't think you ever want to make the default option of how your service works, dropping F-bombs, right? Right. I don't think you want the default option to be like that it talks in risque ways about sexuality or whatever. But if a thinking, free-minded, independent human being wants to have a tool that works that way, I don't think I'm going to be the one to say no, right? Like, so if you want a more playful kind of response back, or one that's off color and swears for fun, why shouldn't you have that? Like, why shouldn't blind people have that the same way sighted people have that, right? And I think we need to allow people to have the experiences that they want that hopefully enrich their lives. Now, the other side of that coin, right? Because it's not as simplistic of that is, that can lead to some dark places, right? Like what you just talked about, bot friends, or in quotation, right?
Yeah.
But if people start spending more time with the bot than their family, by the way, that will happen if it hasn't already. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird and scary and concerning, right? But I think I still err the side on wanting the consumer, on wanting the person who's blind or low vision to dictate how they interact with their world, right?
I think the thing that gets lost in all this conversation is there's a kind of default setting we have, right? That we all have family around us, we all have friends around us, we all have people around us. And there are many blind people out there, and disabled people more generally, who have no one around them. There are cultures where if you are disabled, you will be shunned completely by your family. They will not want you anywhere near them. They won't want you in public. This has to be discussed, because those people are going to be turning to the AI chatbots. They're going to be needing that, because that's the only potential route they have. And Shaun and I have debated this many times. He thinks, no, we just all make friends. How do you make friends with people? How do you find friends when you're alone at home, when you've lost your sight? You're sitting there, you don't know how you're going to get across that front door, how you're going to move, how you're going to do anything. Your world's closed in entirely, and suddenly you cut off. Friends have gone. This happened to me when I was losing my sight. I remember losing friends I'd had for many years who just disappeared. They couldn't cope with it, didn't know how to deal with it. I had changed entirely in front of them, and so they couldn't connect with me anymore. And I felt for a while, there was a period, I would say 6 weeks of my life, I remember that world completely closing in. And I was fortunate enough to have people around me who I knew who were able to help pull me out of it. But not a lot of people have that. And that's where, if there is going to be a chat bot that someone can go to, you want it to be responsible enough to help them get over the front door, help them get out, help them seek supports where it's available. That's where I see Be My AI being that responsible friend, almost. That friend that you go out drinking, you have the responsible friend, the one that doesn't drive or whatever, one that drives for you. You need that. You need that in your life.
Yeah. And I agree. And it's right now, I don't know that, not just Be My Eyes, but I don't even know that these larger models really have firm grasps of the guardrails.
No.
Right? Let me give you a practical example of this. I have had a conversation with a company that provides a state-of-the-art cognitive behavioral therapy bot for mental health. we could probably get a deal done with them where we put this in for free into the Be My Eyes app and let members of the community basically have access to the functional equivalent, whether it's a real equivalent or not is debatable, the functional equivalent of a therapist on demand that's trained in cognitive behavioral therapy and good mental health outcomes. Do we have a responsibility to launch that? By the way,
a tricky one.
It scares the hell out of me, right? What if someone, who has genuine mental health problems or sadness or suicidal ideation interacts with that bot and then self-harms, right? So like these are giant questions I think about all the time.
I remember in the Steve Jobs book there was to talk about where they had found a way of some sensor that could detect cancer, and they decided not to implement that into the Apple Watch because they decided they didn't want to be the company that told you had cancer.
Right.
Now, actually, you could argue there's a huge responsibility if you found that kind of technology to embed that into your watch. But from a company standpoint, do you really want to be that company that A, tells you you've got cancer and B, gets it wrong?
Right. The false positive, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
It's such an interesting world. And that's the thing. That's the upside and downside of this whole thing with AI and chatbots, because the problem is you've no control really over where people go. You want to let people be free and have that conversation and open up to that as much as they want to. But you do have to have some kind of guardrail in place. And you're absolutely right. I don't think that the existing chat models have that at all. They'll happily agree with you on mostly everything you say.
And as soon as you say, by the way, I don't disagree with what your argument, but as soon as you say you have to have guardrails, giant philosophical debate about where.
Yeah.
What? What about
the driverless car question, right? The driverless car, it's driving down the street. There's a kid kicks a ball out onto the street. The kid runs after the ball. There's a group of people standing over here. What does the car do? What does the car do? It can't slam on its brakes at that particular moment. So what does it do? Huge moral questions that exist for all this technology. Who's responsible for it? It's incredible. I will say this, though. It gives us plenty to talk about, Mike. That's for sure.
Yeah, there is no doubt, no shortage of that for sure. And it's always good to talk with you. So thanks for that.
No, thank you. And congrats again on the big news about Apple and the App Store getting into that. Wonderful work as always. And listen, we'll hopefully catch up before the new year. But if not, we'll chat in 2026.
I think we will catch up before the new year, but it's lovely to spend a little time with you. I reflect back on that lunch we had a month or so or 2 months ago in Edinburgh, and I was actually looking at that picture the other day. So anyway, good to spend time with you, sir.
You too, man. Take care.
Talk to you soon.
Always nice to catch up with Mike Buckley. Always nice to catch up with Shaun Preece when he's here. How you doing, Shaun?
Yeah, I've paid my internet bill now. I think I'm back. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So I don't know. Did you catch much of that? Because I know I
caught it all.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I gotta say, I love Mike. He's just so open when he chats about it, and the passion.
Yeah.
I kind of want to say, are you blind, Mike? Because he just seems to get it. And it goes back to our discussion about employment, our place of positions in organizations. Where is blindness the key feature in that? I think Mike, his attitude and all the work that he does an amazing job.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I mean, so many interesting things came out of that. And again, that conversation wasn't really planned to be that conversation, which is why I think it was so enjoyable.
I know you got it back to the App Store Finalist nomination at the end. Well done. It's interesting though, right? AI and the guidelines and the responsibility and the guardrails that go in place. And then I kind of think, well, you could make the same argument with human volunteers. There's no guarantee of what they're going to say, right?
No, that's true.
It's kind of the same with AI. I mean, at some point, you just say, the service is here if you want to use it, but you need to be careful, take care of yourself. I mean, what people tell you. It's difficult, though.
You can argue it's harder with volunteers because you've no control, really. I mean, you can't control a volunteer. You have no... there is a little bit of, I say a little bit, there are training processes you go through when you sign up to become a Be My Eyes volunteer. So there's a little bit of a walkthrough of what the appropriate things you can say, things you can't say, behavior. Yeah, ways to say things, all of that. And that's good. But there's no guarantee that anyone plays along with that. And, we've just been lucky, I think.
I haven't had a bad experience.
No, neither have I. I haven't either, and I haven't heard of people. I mean, I've had a couple of experiences where someone's been very busy. They've answered the call, which perhaps they shouldn't have done, and it's a case of actually, I'm really busy. I can't really do this.
I can't give you full attention. Yeah,
fair enough.
Or I've had some people that aren't great with guiding directions, right? As you do with general members of the public anyway. I've had that a couple of times. But, I mean, arguably, when we're talking about the example given there, mental health, I mean, there's a very distinct difference between that and because there is a sense of vulnerability there. If someone's going through some sort of episode and looking for help and support, there's more of a responsibility. And I don't know how I feel about that.
I keep trying to think of appropriate kind of equivalence, perhaps, when it comes to technology and how we think about technology. I suppose, I mean, and maybe this is the wrong one, but I often think about AI and the way we talk about AI, especially in this case of using it almost like a therapist and talking to it about our deep feelings and all the rest of it. I kind of almost akin it a little bit to online dating in the sense that when I think back to initially when people would say to me, I've got a date tonight, I met them online. I'm like, really? You don't know this person.
Like, say, generational thing?
I think it is a generational thing, yeah. I think today's generation, today's Gen Zers and all the rest of it, wouldn't even think twice about having a conversation. Would probably prefer to have a conversation with an AI chatbot than a human being. Kids don't answer phones these days. They want you to text them first. They get upset if you send them a thumbs up emoji because apparently that's offensive. I mean, what's wrong with this generation?
You say that. My youngest, who late 20s, by the way, but my youngest won't use AI at all. She won't use it because of the server farms, the energy consumption. She refuses to use AI.
No, it's more ethical concerns on that.
Yeah, it's an ethical thing rather than, and I'm there, co-piloting and Geminiing and
be my eyesing and be my AI.
Yeah, and but again, it goes back to your discussion that Mike's saying there about the negatives and positives, and weighing it all up and recognizing both sides.
Well, certainly an interesting discussion out of that. Yes. That's for sure. Thanks to Mike for joining us. And I'll tell you about my computer story as it continues and unfolds, as the soap opera continues. I'm sure we'll get into that and more. Tomorrow on the show, we'll dive into the inbox, though, and get into tons of your emails. So we look forward to that. Thank you, Shaun. Catch you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.